A spear is launched by Alexander the Great at Darius III. The spear launched by the Macedonian misses the Persian king by mere inches. Darius then shits himself and flees for his life. His army, now disheartened and disenfranchised, turn and flee as well, marking the end for an empire that had been dominant for over 2 centuries. How did we get here? How did the once mighty Achaemenid Empire succumb to the might of an upstart veteran such as Alexander? Today we will look into Alexander's conquest of Persia and his many battles to answer those questions and more in this episode of Historical Quarrels. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Historical Quarrels. We're doing this again. I'm really excited for this one. We're going to be talking about Alexander the Great fucking up Persia and Darius III being not able to live up to his namesake, as well as a few other things. Found out a few interesting facts about Alexander and a few interesting facts about Darius as well. As noted in our last episode, we are back and we're working on improving the show as we continue. Some quick announcements is that this will no longer be a dual hosted show. It will still just be me on the mic talking to you in your ear holes softly and slowly. Every now and then I may have a guest on to go through the battles and quarrels with me. Don't expect it, as people are just busy with life. Other announcements are we're working on getting a website up for the show, which may or may not eventually have merch on it and other cool things on it. I will also be recording our first Patreon episode. It's going to be going over the lore of true STL on Reddit and some of the crazy shit that's gone on there. If you're Elder Scrolls fans, go check it out. It's going to be pretty interesting. There's a lot of deep diving that I have done. I've been incognito, undercover, not really undercover, but just kind of joining in on discussions there for the past few months. And I have a lot of detail on how everything operates there. It's super interesting. That's all for today. So let's go ahead and get into what has to be one of the craziest conquests in history, filled with just, so many interesting stories. So to get a good understanding of the context of today's stories, we're going to look at the countries before the battle took place. We'll start with Macedon. Before its conquest of Persia, the ancient kingdom of Macedon, located in the northern region of the Greek peninsula, underwent a period of significant growth and transformation under the rule of King Philip II. Prior to Philip II's reign, however, Macedon was pretty fucking mid. Often overshadowed by the powerful Greek city-states such as Athens and Sparta. However, Philip's visionary leadership and military reforms transformed Macedon from being mid to pretty top tier. They're kicking ass. Matter of fact, they kicked so much ass that made the Spartans look like shit. One of Philip's most significant accomplishments was the reorganization of the Macedonian army. He introduced the phalanx, a tight infantry formation with long spears, sarissas, that allowed his soldiers to effectively engage their enemies. He also improved the cavalry, making it an integral part of the army and a key to his later military successes. It was also said he attempted to breed out centaurs to use as warriors, thinking their strength and speed would be unmatched, and to have the horses have the capability of thought like man would turn them into the most formidable of warriors. In addition to military reforms, Philip pursued a policy of expansion and diplomacy. He managed to subdue neighboring tribes and secure his kingdom's borders. Through strategic marriages and alliances, he further strengthened Macedon's position in the region. And no, he actually did not try to breed out centaurs. Could you fucking imagine, though? Just the king comes up to you and he's like, hey, I listen, for for the glory of the kingdom, I have something I need you to do, okay? And just don't question me. You're going to go to this horse, and you're going to make a baby with it. I know what you're thinking, that it's wrong and it's sick, and you're right. But trust me, we need them. We need centaurs. This is how we're going to win. This is how we're going to conquer the world. It's you fucking that horse right now. Dude, that'd be so wild. In 338 BC, Philip achieved a decisive victory over an alliance of Greek city-states led by Athens and Thebes at the Battle of Chaeronea. This triumph marked the beginning of the Macedonian hegemony over Greece and the formation of the League of Corinth, which united the Greek city-states, except Sparta, under Philip's leadership. Now, you might be asking yourself, why the hell didn't Sparta join up or fight the League of Corinth? Well, two answers for you. One, Sparta really took like a dark spiral downward from the time that this happened. They essentially got, you know your buddy from high school who was like kicking ass. He was on the football team. He got scholarships to college, and then like a few years into college, you're kind of talking to him, and he went through like a rough breakup, so he turned to like doing some drugs, like hard drugs, not like weed. He was doing like heroin, like let's just say heroin, right? And anyways, you're thinking, okay, he's doing heroin, which is bad, and it's not that good. But like, he's still pretty smart, and he's got like his athletic skill. He should be fine. He's going to be good. And you forget about him for a few years. And then all of a sudden, you don't hear from him at all. You can't find him anywhere. And you just see him like in the street one day begging. And you're like, yo, Steve, what the fuck happened to you? And he's like, dude, the heroin, it went bad, man. I suck dick for it now. I need it. Give me heroin. And you remorse your friend that you've lost now because they're no longer your friend. They're just whatever they became because of the drug addiction. And that was Sparta, essentially. Since the Battle of Thermopylae, they just spiraled super down, and they kind of sucked ass. So yeah, all of our fantasized hot, hard Spartan daddies were no longer hot and hard, but instead slow, soft, and ineffective during the start of the Hellenistic era, mostly. With Greece under his control, though, Philip started planning an invasion of the Persian Empire. However, his plans were cut short when he was cut short and assassinated in 336 BC. His son, Alexander III, later known as Alexander the Great, ascended to the throne and continued his father's ambitions by launching the conquest of Persia in 334 BC. So, before we get into the conquest that Alexander starts, let's talk about Persia. Before its conquest by Alexander the Great, Persia was the center of the Achaemenid Empire, one of the most powerful and extensive empires in ancient history. And when I talk about powerful and extensive, I mean they fucking covered everything. Rome barely had shit on them, man. They dominated for 300 years. It was founded by Cyrus the Great in the 6th century BC. The Achaemenid Empire covered a vast territory stretching from the Indus Valley in the east to Egypt and Thrace in the west, which is huge. I'm not going to give you the exact number of miles, but pretty sure you can Google that. Just Google Indus Valley to Thrace, and you'll get a good idea of like how big their territory was. Cyrus the Great, from 559 to 530 BC, is credited with creating the foundation of the empire. Through a series of conquests, he established a centralized government, conquered the powerful Median Empire, and expanded his realm by annexing Lydia and Babylon. Cyrus also introduced the concept of religious tolerance and a fair system of governance, because he just really didn't give a shit who worshipped who, as long as he got his fucking money. And he understood the primary principle: don't fuck with people's religion, let them be happy as long as they pay you. And if they don't pay you, you go fuck them up. And that's what he did, which allowed the conquered peoples to retain their own customs, religions, languages, thus fostering a sense of unity among diverse cultures within the empire. His successors, notably Darius I and Xerxes I, further expanded the empire and consolidated its rule. Darius I was an exceptional administrator who implemented efficient bureaucratic and taxation systems, and he oversaw the construction of impressive infrastructures, such as the Royal Road and the capital city of Persepolis. 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 One of those was the right one. He also launched the first failed Persian invasion of Greece in 490 BC, which ended in the defeat at the Battle of Marathon, where the dude ran for what was it, 200 miles? No, it wasn't that crazy. It was I want to say 100 miles though. It was wild, and that's where we get marathon runs now. Is because it's some Greek dude that ran for fucking ever and got the Spartans involved to kick the Persians out. Bastards, making me run now. Oh, really? I need to run again, though. God. Need to get healthy. Start running. Whew! Anyways, Xerxes I continued his father's expansionist policies and also continued his father's losing streak and led the second failed Persian invasion of Greece in 480 BC. Despite initial successes, including the famous Battle of Thermopylae, the Persians ultimately suffered a series of defeats and were forced to retreat, marking the beginning of a decline in Persian power and marking the beginning of Xerxes' interest in ocean BDSM. Listen to one of my first episodes to get that reference. But Xerxes essentially whipped Poseidon because he was the mad boy. He was just so upset at the dirty water. Over the next century, the Achaemenid Empire faced internal strife, revolts, and a decline in its central authority. Artaxerxes III managed to temporarily restore some stability, but the empire's vulnerability became apparent. By the time Darius III ascended to the throne, the empire was facing a significant challenge from the rising power of Macedon, led by Alexander the Great. And as we all know, despite initial resistance, the Persian Empire will ultimately succumb to Alexander's conquest, leading to the end of the Achaemenid dynasty and the beginning of the Hellenistic influence in the region. In summary, before its conquest by Alexander the Great, the Persian Achaemenid Empire was the dominant force in the ancient world, known for its vast territories, religious tolerance, efficient administration, and impressive infrastructures. However, all of that shit apparently wasn't enough because Alexander the Great had the biggest fucking daddy dick of all time and conquered everything he saw. Man. So let's go ahead and get into the history lesson and battles now. So, beginning with the Siege of Pelium. The Siege of Pelium in 335 BC was a minor engagement fought between Alexander the Great's forces and the Illyrians. So this is right before he started going to go fuck up Persia. The Illyrians were led by King Cletus of the Dardanians. I'm not fucking with you. His name was King Cletus or Cletus. it's Cletus. Fuck it. It's spelled Cleitus. It's Cletus. Of the Dardanians. Gosh darn it. King Cletus couldn't keep us safe from Alexander. Good old King Cletus was known as the hard man who would routinely get drunk off of fermented barley juice and beat his concubines and say really, really suggestive things towards his nieces and nephews that would make them nervous to visit the capital. He also commissioned the first ever elongated sofa with wheels attached to the bottom, and inside the sofa, there was a compartment to store his fermented barley juice inside of bronze flasks that he would sip on as his guards pushed him around Pelium. The battle took place in Illyria near modern-day Albania. I'm obviously fucking with you. He clearly didn't do that. Oh, excuse me, that I can confirm. But yeah, so the siege ended up taking place near modern-day Albania and North Macedonia before Alexander embarked on his Persian campaign. Alexander aimed to secure his northern borders and suppress any potential rebellions before focusing on the Persian Empire. As Alexander understood that before you attempt any large-scale invasion, you better make sure your borders are fucking secure and aren't going to be fucked with while you're out and about. Notable stories. One of the most notable stories from the siege of Pelium is the tactical ingenuity displayed by Alexander. Faced with a heavy and fortified and almost impregnable position, he cleverly used the terrain to his advantage. Alexander ordered his troops to create a causeway using branches and earth to bypass the difficult terrain and reach the enemy position. This unexpected move led to the surrender of the Illyrians, ensuring the security of Macedonia's northern borders. After this battle, Alexander decided to rally his troops onward by giving them this speech. My fellow warriors, I stand before you today with great pride in our recent victory at the Siege of Pelium. We have once again proven ourselves to be the strongest and most capable army in all of the lands. Our enemies have fallen before us and their city lie in ruins. But as we celebrate this triumph, I cannot help but reflect on the role that one creature played in our success. For it was not only the strength of our swords and the skill of our archers that won the day, but also the courage and determination of my faithful companion, Bucephalus. Indeed, I must say that he is the most beautiful horse I have ever seen. His coat shines like the sun, and his mane and tail flow like the finest silk. His eyes are as fierce as any warrior's, and his heart is as true as any hero's. It is no exaggeration to say that without Bucephalus, I would not be standing before you today. He has carried me through countless battles and never once faltered or failed. He is not just a horse, but a symbol of our greatness as a people. So let us honor Bucephalus today, along with all of the other brave souls who have fought and died for our cause. Let us remember that our strength lies not only in our weapons and our tactics, but in our loyalty and our love for each other. Together, we will continue to conquer all who oppose us, and we will go down in history as the greatest empire the world has ever known. Wherever we go, Bucephalus will be there, leading the charge and inspiring us all. Thank you, and long live our empire! As you can tell, Alexander had a great deal of love and respect for his horse, Bucephalus. A great companion that he would talk about during most of his battles, actually. So this leads us into the Battle of Granicus, 334 BC. The Battle of Granicus was the first major battle fought between Alexander the Great and the Persian Empire. It took place in May 334 BC near the Granicus River, in modern-day northwestern Turkey. Alexander's forces faced a Persian army led by several Persian satraps, including Memnon of Rhodes, a Greek mercenary commander fighting for Persia. And the reason why the Greeks were fucking with Persia to fuck up Macedon is because Athens and Thebes actually really didn't want to be part of the League of Corinth. They wanted to have their own system still and not be ruled by the king, by King Alexander, essentially. So they're trying to do some betrayals back and forth there. Notable stories and sources. One of the most famous stories of the Battle of Granicus revolves around Alexander's personal bravery and his narrow escape from death. During the battle, Alexander charged at the Persian line, targeting the Greek mercenaries fighting for Persia. This man, who's leading his army, and by the way, the reason why he was so convinced he was fucking unstoppable is because his mom essentially told him that some bitch told her that he was going to be this almost demigod-like figure. And it turns out that mom might have been right about Alexander. He charged the line and went specifically for Greek mercenaries, and he went and killed them himself. Alexander found himself in a dangerous position with the Persian noble, Spithridates, who raised his sword to strike him. However, Cletus the Black, a member of Alexander's elite companion cavalry, intervened just in time, killing Spithridates and saving Alexander's life. Not before Alexander had the chance to kill over 10 to 30 men himself, which is insane. I cannot imagine that, just charging into a line, picking out the Greek mercenaries, slaughtering them, almost dying, but then one of your homies got your back and kills the guy that almost kills you. Of course he thought he was invincible. This event, along with other details of battles, is documented in the accounts of various ancient historians, including Diodorus, Siculus, Quintus, Curtius, Rufus, Arrian, and Plutarch. These sources provide valuable information on a speech given by Alexander after this battle. It goes, "My dear comrades, today we have achieved a great victory at the Battle of Granicus. We have faced a formidable enemy, and we have emerged triumphant. Our swords have clashed with theirs, and our valor has triumphed over their treachery. But as we look back on this day, we cannot help but acknowledge the vital role that one brave creature played in our success. Bucephalus, my beloved horse, was the hero of the day. You see, when we first faced the enemy, they were formidable and fierce. Our troops were hesitant, and their advance was slow. But then, Bucephalus came charging forth with all of his might and power, and his mere presence inspired us all. As we followed him into battle, we were invigorated by his strength and his courage. We fought with renewed vigor, and we overwhelmed our enemy. And all the while, Bucephalus was there, leading the way, never once faltering or failing. I must say, my friends, that Bucephalus was the true hero of the Battle of Granicus. His strength and determination carried us to victory. We owe him a great debt of gratitude that we can never repay. Let us honor Bucephalus today, along with all the other brave souls who fought and died on this field of battle. Let us remember that it is not just our own strength that wins at wars, but the courage and loyalty of our companions as well. Together, we will continue to conquer all who stand in our way, and we will do so with Bucephalus by our side, leading the charge and inspiring us all. Long live our empire. Thank you. I cannot imagine what it must have been like to be one of Alexander's troops listening to that speech, being like, it's just a fucking horse, man. Like, are you kidding me? But yeah, this leads us into our next battle that was fought, which is the Siege of Miletus, 334 BC. The Siege of Miletus took place in 334 BC during Alexander the Great's conquest of the Persian Empire. After the Battle of the Granicus, Alexander continued to advance along the coast of Asia Minor, targeting Persian-controlled cities, fucking them up, and then eventually went to Miletus, an ancient Greek city located in modern-day Turkey, was one such city that had a strong Persian garrison. Alexander's forces quickly besieged Miletus, and despite a determined resistance, the city fell within a few weeks. During the Siege of Miletus, Alexander demonstrated his exceptional skills in siege warfare. Realizing the importance of cutting off the Persian fleet's access to the city, he ordered the construction of a mole, a massive earthen causeway, to close off the harbor. He fucking routed the water from the harbor and sucked it away so they couldn't get supplies. God damn, he was smart. They dug like a mole. Oh, that's crazy. That's just crazy to think about it. He was just like, well, you know, if we cut them off from supplies, they're going to want to stop fucking fighting back, which just makes sense. This move effectively isolated the Persian garrison and forced them to surrender because they're like, we've got nowhere to go. Oh no, Alexander's coming. Someone quickly just say we won't. Say we'll stop. They did. Another interesting aspect of the siege was Alexander's treatment of the city's inhabitants after the victory. Instead of punishing the population for siding with Persia, he treated them with leniency and allowed them to continue practicing their local customs and laws. This approach was a crucial aspect of Alexander's strategy in winning the loyalty of conquered cities, which would be very important later on. After this, we get to the siege of Halicarnassus, which took place in 334 BC during the conquest as well. It is also located in modern-day Turkey. It was the capital of the Persian satrapy of Caria and a strategic stronghold. The city was defended by a joint force of Persians and Greek mercenaries, led by the Persian satrap of Caria, Ada, and the Greek mercenary commander Memnon of Rhodes, who we met earlier and who got fucked up with the Illyrians. Alexander's forces besieged the city, which resulted in a prolonged and hard-fought battle. One of the most memorable stories from the siege of Halicarnassus is the use of war machines by the defenders. Memnon and his forces employed various types of siege engines, including catapults and bolt-shooting ballistae, to repel Alexander's assaults on the city walls. Despite the defenders' tenacity, Alexander's forces managed to breach the walls, forcing the Persian forces to retreat and set fire to parts of the city to deny it to the enemy. They literally scorch earth that motherfucker. Another notable aspect of the siege was Alexander's alliance with the former queen of Caria, Ada. After the fall of Halicarnassus, Ada, who had been deposed by her brother Pixodarus, declared her loyalty to Alexander and adopted him as her son. In return, Alexander reinstalled her as the ruler of Caria, demonstrating his strategic use of diplomacy and alliances to further his conquest. He learned that from his daddy, not realizing that not only brute force is going to win you territory, but alliances will allow you to keep that territory. Smart motherfucker. According to ancient historian Adrian in his work, Anabasis of Alexander, 2 Macedonian soldiers named Promachus and Alexander, not the king, got intoxicated one night during the siege. And in their drunken state, they decided to challenge each other to a race to be the first to scale enemy walls. So essentially 2 dudes were in their camps right before, during some of the sieging battles, and they pumped each other up, being like, bro, I bet I could fucking kill 100 Persians. And the guy's like, I bet I could kill 1,000 Persians, dude. What the fuck are you talking about? I could kill way more than you. And the guy was like, no, I could kill way more than you. What are you talking about, man? And then they were both like, you know what? Fuck you. We're gonna go do it. Come on, you and me together. We'll go kill all of them. We'll conquer them. We'll kill them. And they literally got themselves so riled up, they ran to the fucking walls. Wearing full armor, the 2 inebriated soldiers charged at the walls and began to climb. The defenders of Halicarnassus were initially taken by surprise. We're like, whoa, what the fuck is happening here? And thought the attack was a ruse. However, they soon realized the soldiers were drunk and began attacking them. The 2 Macedonians fought bravely, but were ultimately killed by the defenders. But because of that confusion, Alexander actually did take advantage of that, and it did help them scale the walls and take over from there. So 2 drunken idiots did help win a war despite their deaths, which is crazy. It's like, yeah, just get drunk and, really confuse the shit out of your enemy. Great tactic. Great. This leads us to the Battle of Issus in 333 BC. The Battle of Issus was a crucial engagement fought between Alexander the Great's Macedonian forces and the Persian army led by King Darius III. The battle took place near the town of Issus in the modern-day southern Turkey. Alexander's smaller but better trained and more disciplined force managed to achieve a decisive victory over the much larger Persian Empire, making a turning point in his conquest of the Persian Empire. One of the most famous moments from the Battle of Issus is the face-to-face encounter between Alexander and Darius on the battlefield. As Alexander's forces pressed the attack, Darius found himself in a vulnerable position and was forced to flee the battlefield. The image of the Persian king fleeing from the young Macedonian conqueror became an iconic symbol of Alexander's triumph over the Persian Empire. Straight up, Alexander was able to go find Darius on the battlefield, started marching toward him and was calling him out, being like, hey, get over here, bring your ass over here, fight me man to man. Was like, do it. He's very macho, very bravismo sort of guy, Alexander. And Darius was shitting himself, because at that point Darius had heard of the stories of Alexander going into all of these battles, leading from the front and never being hurt. I would be terrified too if I had to go up against that guy. I'd be like, holy shit, this guy probably actually can't be killed. He probably is a god. I try to run away. So another notable story from the battle is the capture of Darius' family by Alexander's forces. After the battle, by the way, this is crazy. Darius fucking abandoned his family. Alexander discovered Darius' mother, wife, and children in the Persian camp. Instead of harming them, he treated them with great respect and kindness. This magnanimous gesture earned Alexander a reputation for chivalry and furthered his image as a benevolent conqueror. Primary sources of the Battle of Issus include ancient historians such as Diodorus, Cicilus, Quintus, Curtius, Rufus, Arrian, and Plutarch. Again, these accounts provide insights into Alexander's tactics, his leadership, and another speech he gave to his men after this battle. It goes, "My fellow warriors, today we have emerged victorious once again at the Battle of Issus. We faced a formidable foe, but we were not intimidated. We fought with all of our might, and we emerged triumphant. However, I must admit that today's battle was not without its challenges. There was a moment when I was knocked from my horse, Bucephalus, and he was ridden by another Macedonian warrior. I must say that I am disappointed in Bucephalus for allowing another rider to mount him. He and I have been through so much together, and I thought we had a bond that could not be broken. But it seems that I was mistaken. I understand that Bucephalus is a magnificent animal, and that other warriors may be tempted to ride him. But he is not just any horse. He is my companion. my friend, and I trust him with my life. I am not angry at the warrior who rode Bucephalus, for I know he did so in the heat of battle. But I am disappointed in my horse for allowing it to happen. I'll have to work to strengthen our bond and ensure that he remains loyal to me and me alone. Nevertheless, we emerged victorious in the end, and I am proud of all of you for your bravery and your valor. Let us continue to fight with honor and determination, and let us always remember that our greatest strength lies not in our weapons or our horses, but in our bond as brothers in arms. Thank you, and long live Macedon! Wow. Trouble in paradise, huh, Alexander? Getting a little jealous about Bucephalus getting ridden, huh? It's pretty crazy. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into our next battle. The next battle is the Battle of Myrandrus in 333 BC. It was a planned engagement between Alexander the Great's forces and the Persian army, again led by King Darius III, still despite running away and abandoning his fucking family. However, the battle never actually took place due to unfavorable weather conditions. Myrandrus was a port city located in modern-day Turkey, near the border with Syria. After the Battle of Issus, Darius reassembled his army and planned to confront Alexander again. The two armies were supposed to engage in battle near Myrandrus. However, a severe storm and torrential rain made it impossible for the two forces to engage in combat. The unfavorable weather conditions created logistical challenges, hampering communication and movement for both sides. It's the equivalent of being in a rainstorm and you're trying to like talk to your friends across the street, being like, "Hey, Gary, you gonna go over here for the bar tonight?" And they're like, "What?" I said, "Are you gonna go over here for the bar tonight?" What? And yeah, they just couldn't hear shit because of the rain. Taking advantage of the situation, however, Alexander opted for a surprise move. Instead of waiting for the weather to improve, he marched his army along the coast to the south and east, bypassing Darius' position. This maneuver forced Darius to abandon his plan for a pitched battle at Myrandrus and retreat further east, again running away like a bitch, eventually leading to the Battle of Gaugamela the following year, which we'll get into. While there's no actual battle at Myrandrus, this event highlights Alexander's strategic thinking. This guy really understood battle. He understood maneuvering his troops in a way that numbers meant fucking shit. Oh, by the way, that Battle of Issus, by the way, it was like 50,000 troops to 10,000, and Alexander lost 2,000. Meanwhile, 40,000 of the Persian troops, I think, got slaughtered. I'll have to go double check those numbers, but it was insane. The guy, it did not matter how many men you brought with you. Alexander was better, and he was going to better use his men than you ever could. After this leads us to the Battle of the Sicilian Gates in 333 BC. The Sicilian Gates were strategically important mountain pass located in the Taurus Mountains in modern-day Turkey. The pass was a vital route that connected Cilicia and the central Anatolian plateau. Alexander's forces needed to secure this passage to continue their advance into the heart of the Persian Empire. Although the Battle of the Sicilian Gates was a relatively small engagement, this again demonstrates Alexander's ability to rapidly seize crucial terrain. He caught the Persian defenders off guard by using their old strategy, marching his forces through the pass with surprising speed. The Persian forces, led the satrap of Sicilia, Arsames, were not prepared for the sudden attack and were quickly caught off guard. Lost my track here? Anyways, so the swift capture of the Sicilian Gates allowed Alexander to continue his march unimpeded. It further showcased his tactical acumen, and discipline of his troops. Ancient historians such as Diodorus, Arrian, Quintus, Curtius, Rufus provide accounts of this episode in their writings on Alexander's campaigns, offering valuable insights into his strategies and decision-making process. If you're ever interested, just Google up those names. You can get a little more detail. This is meant to give you brief overviews of the battle, some funny side notes, I'm not going to be an in-depth historian about shit. So this is kind of just to make it digestible, a little, to give you the nutrients that you need to digest the big battles of Alexander. You take the small little nipples I give you, and you're like, this is tasty. Maybe I look up more, and then you look up more. That is what this is for. Anyways, getting into the Siege of Tyre, which is in 332 BC. Again, another military engagement. It took place at the ancient Phoenician city of Tyre. Located on a heavily fortified island off the coast of modern-day Lebanon, the siege lasted for 7 months, with Alexander's forces facing determined resistance from the Tyrians, who were supported by the Persian Empire. Eventually, Alexander's forces captured the city, which was a significant strategic victory in his campaign. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Siege of Tyre was the construction of a causeway known as the Mole by Alexander's forces. To reach the island fortress, Alexander's engineers built a massive earthen ramp connecting the mainland to the island. So instead of fucking boats, they just made a giant ass ramp and slammed it on the other side to march everyone's asses over there. His ambitious engineering project enabled his forces to approach the city walls and use siege engines to breach the defenses. Despite them doing that, there still was a fierce naval battle that took place between Alexander's fleet and the Tyrian navy. These engagements were crucial in preventing the Tyrians from receiving reinforcements and supplies from the Persian Empire. Because again, Alexander understands that if you want to beat an enemy, there's two pretty simple things that you gotta make sure you do first. One, you rout them, you make sure they're surrounded, and two, you cut off any supply lines coming in. And then they get weaker and weaker. And then you can keep eating off of the surrounding, like you can steal from those supplies, from the supplies that you got that they were supposed to get. Your troops will be better for that week than those troops will be, and they'll be stronger and able to kill them way faster. Following the capture of Tyre, Alexander did treat this city very harshly. Many of its inhabitants were killed or sold into slavery, and the city itself was heavily damaged. This severe treatment served as a warning to other cities that might have considered resisting Alexander's forces. Now, despite many historians thinking this harsh treatment was due to his issues he was having with his horse and the betrayal he felt when he let another Macedonian ride him, this is disputed yet again by another speech, and also by the fact that Alexander just really fucking hates traitors. He had a massive hate boner for people he considered traitors. So, like, anytime they went to battle and there were Greeks there, slaughtered. They betrayed him. They betrayed the League of Corinth. He was supposed to be, he was their God-given ruler, and they fucked around, and now they're finding out what Alexander's going to do. And then in this speech, it does kind of like, make you think that, oh, maybe he did get over his whole Bucephalus thing. So let me go ahead and read it for you. My fellow warriors, today we celebrate our victory at the Siege of Tyre. And I must say that it is a sweet victory indeed. We have overcome tremendous obstacles, and we have emerged triumphant. But as I stand before you today, I must also share a personal triumph, one that is close to my heart. During the Siege of Tyre, my beloved horse, Bucephalus, and I had a falling out, and I was disappointed in him for allowing another Macedonian warrior to ride him. But I am happy to report that Bucephalus and I have worked through our trust issues, and our bond has grown deeper as a result. We have spent many hours training together, and I've come to realize that Bucephalus is not just a magnificent animal, but a loyal and faithful companion. During the Siege of Tyre, Bucephalus was once again proved his worth as a warrior's mount. He charged fearlessly into battle, and his determination was an inspiration to us all. But it was not just his strength and his courage that impressed me. It was his loyalty and devotion to me as his rider. We have worked through our differences, and we've emerged stronger for it. I know that Bucephalus will always be there for me, just as I will always be there for him. We have a bond that cannot be broken, and I am grateful for his presence in my life. So let us celebrate our victory today, but let us also celebrate the bonds that we share with our animal companions. They are more than just animals. They are our partners in battle and in life. Thank you, and long live our empire. Well, glad to hear that Alexander was able to work out some issues there with Bucephalus. Trouble in paradise was no longer. It seems like things are working out now. So, it's good. Good for them. This leads us into the siege of Garza of 332 BC. The siege of Gaza took place in 332 BC, and Gaza was an important fortified city located on the Mediterranean coast in modern-day Gaza Strip, Palestine. The city was a strategic stronghold, serving as a gateway between Egypt and Levant. Alexander's fortress besieged Gaza, and despite the determined resistance by the defenders, the city eventually fell to the Macedonians. One notable story from the siege is the stubborn resistance put forth by the city's defenders. Led by a Persian noble named Batis, they held out against Alexander's forces for 2 months. Using the city's strong fortifications to their advantage, Alexander's forces faced significant challenges in breaching the walls, and the siege turned into a battle of attrition. Alexander would eventually employ a combination of siege engines and mining techniques to undermine the city's defenses. Man, the guy was like a fucking he loved to dig. He was like a literal mole. That's probably why all of his shit was called moles. When the walls were finally breached, Alexander's forces stormed the city, and Batis was captured. In an act of retribution for the fierce resistance, Alexander had Batis dragged to death behind a chariot, a brutal and symbolic punishment reminiscent of the treatment of Hector's body by Achilles in the Iliad. Alexander loved Achilles as well. He idolized him. He was like, oh man, I'm the next Achilles. So he's like, oh man, I gotta do this to this guy too. Just gotta kind of like go down the same path Achilles did, but lead armies instead of just serve as a warrior. So the siege of Gaza demonstrates Alexander's determination to capture heavily fortified cities and his ability to adapt his tactics to overcome strong defenses. Again, primary sources for this will include Diodorus, Arrian, Quintus, and Plutarch, who provide insights into the siege. So this leads us into the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC. This is also known as the Battle of Arbela. It was a pivotal engagement between Alexander the Great's Macedonian forces and the Persian army, once again led by King Darius III. The battle took place on October 1st, 331 BC, near the village of Gaugamela in modern-day northern Iraq. Despite being significantly outnumbered, Alexander's well-trained and disciplined troops managed to achieve a decisive victory over the Persian army, effectively ending Persian resistance and marking the beginning of the end for the Achaemenid Empire. One of the most famous stories from the Battle of the Gaugamela is the moment when Alexander's forces broke through the Persian lines and pursued Darius. As he pursued Darius, he was chasing him, constantly calling out his name, being like, hey, come fight me, like a man, damn it. And as Darius was turning to flee, Alexander got his spear and chucked that son of a bitch right at the king. Very reminiscent of that scene from like 300, where Xerxes is like talking to Leonidas and being like, you are going to bow to me. And Leonidas is like dropping his shield just because he's like, man, I gotta be able to chuck this thing. And then just yeets it over to Xerxes, and he like slices off some of his gold rings and he bleeds. He's like, so gods do bleed. That's what Alexander did to Darius, who was forced to flee the battlefield for the second time. This event solidified Alexander's reputation as a fearsome and unstoppable military commander, as well as probably a demigod who cannot be killed on the battlefield because he, again, slaughters personally. And like I was going through this, some people say 20, some people say 100, some people like it goes on and on, but there are countless stories of him just slaughtering the troops by himself. Like he's just out there and he loves it. This guy was made to kill. And it's impressive. Alexander found what he loved to do, which was conquer, and he was great at it. So, good for Alexander. Good for him for finding his his passion, his need, his purpose in life. Still crazy that Darius fled. Could you imagine being the troops of King Darius and watching your king flee again for the second time after the leader of the enemy that's been haunting you for the past, let's see, at this point it's been like 5 years or 4 years, comes out to be like, hey, fight me one-on-one, and your king's too much of a bitch to do it, and you're like, man, maybe this guy isn't worth protecting. Anyways, another notable story involves Alexander's tactical genius during the battle. He employed a series of innovative maneuvers, such as the use of oblique formations and feigned retreats, to exploit weaknesses in the Persian lines. So essentially, he'd move about in kind of like a weirder way, and then retreat back, kind of sucking the Persian forces in. And as they came in, because of the way they moved, he was able to kind of like collapse in on them like a crocodile. Crocodile snaps. And just slaughter a shit ton of them at once. This, additionally, he managed to neutralize the Persian war elephants and chariots by having his troops open gaps in their lines, allowing the elephants and chariots to pass through without causing significant damage. So essentially, they just open up, move away. The elephants would run away, and they would move forward and just keep killing people. The Battle of Gaugamela was a turning point in Alexander's campaign and had a profound impact on the course of world history. Again, primary sources would be Diodorus, Arrian, Quintus, Brutus, and Plutarch. The writings offer detailed descriptions of the battle, Alexander's tactics, and dramatic events. So again, if you want to check that out, go to those guys. I keep referencing that because that's where a lot of this gets pulled from. All of the references that I get. This leads us to the Battle of the Uxine Defile of 331 BC. The Battle of Uxine Defile took place again during the conquest. This engagement was a skirmish against the Uxie tribe, a semi-nomadic people inhabiting the region of modern-day Iran. The battle occurred in the strategic mountain pass known as the Uxine Defile, which Alexander's forces needed to traverse to continue their eastward advance into the heart of the Persian Empire. The Uxie tribe was known for its ability to harass and extract tribute from those passing through their territory. They attempted to do the same thing with Alexander's forces, but Alexander was determined not to pay tribute and instead decided to confront the Uxie. Alexander's forces were able to overcome the Uxie by launching a two-pronged attack. While the main body of his army moved through the pass, Alexander led a smaller detachment of elite troops to scale the mountains and attack the Uxie from the rear. This maneuver took the Uxie by surprise, and they were quickly defeated. And Alexander led it himself. He was part of those elite troops because he was like, listen, guys, I got you. You just stick with me. We'll fucking kill everyone, apparently. And everyone was like, okay. Yeah, I believe you. I would. If I was part of Alexander's troops, I'd fucking believe everything he told me. I'd be like, dude, I've seen you. You can't die. Like, following you, man. So... it's just crazy. He hiked up a mountain pass, got behind them, and forked them, and then fucked them super hard. Oh, dude. Alexander's a crazy guy. This showcases Alexander's ability to adapt to various challenges and terrain during his campaign. It also demonstrates his determination to maintain his army's momentum and not be slowed down by local resistance. Because again, you fuck with Alexander, you're probably going to die. And the Uxie tribe paid for that. This leads us to the siege of Susa. Susa was an important city and administrative capital of the Achaemenid Empire, located in modern-day Iran. Contrary to the term siege, the city surrendered to Alexander's forces without a fight, sparing it from destruction and bloodshed. After the decisive victory, the Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander continued his eastward march into the heart of the Persian Empire after the Uxie tribe. Reaching Susa, he met with the city's governor, Abulutis, who would choose to surrender the city without resistance, likely in an attempt to save the population from the cities and the city's treasures from the fate that had befallen the other cities that resisted Alexander's forces. The peaceful surrender of Susa allowed Alexander to capture vast amounts of wealth stored in the city. So that plan that Abulutis had to save his treasure didn't fucking work. Alexander's like, I'm still taking your money, bitch. which included gold, silver, and valuable artifacts. The city's treasury was one of the richest in the Persian Empire, and its capture significantly bolstered Alexander's resources. It also really helped morale with his troops because he was like, here you guys go. Take all the fucking money you want. We conquered it. Oh, man. This surrender of Susa demonstrated Alexander's growing reputation as an unstoppable conqueror, which often led to cities and regions choosing to submit to his rule rather than face the potential destruction that could result from resistance. This then leads us to the siege of Persepolis. The siege of Persepolis was Persepolis was the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire that Darius I built. This is so crazy. Darius the first built this, and this is like the center of the Achaemenid Empire. This is like their holy ground. Like everything should be protected here. Like the siege of Susa, however, the term siege is somewhat misleading, as the city did not put up significant resistance and surrendered to Alexander's forces. The main capital built by Darius I, their founder of this empire, surrendered without that much resistance. After Susa, Alexander continues to advance. The city's governor, Tiridates, chose to abandon the city and flee rather than put up a resistance against Alexander's approaching army. The guy was scared shitless and ran. Oh, that's crazy. Alexander was just that scary, guys. Everyone back then, you said Alexander the Third, and people shat themselves. Straight up shat themselves and ran. As a result, because of the governor leaving, Persepolis surrendered without significant fighting. Some of the forces did put up a fight, but they found that it really wasn't worth it. So this was a significant event in Alexander's conquest, as it demonstrated his complete domination over the Persian Empire. Once inside the city, Alexander's forces plundered again its vast treasures, further enriching his war chest and solidifying his power even more. One of the notable stories from here is the burning of the city's palace. There are various accounts about why it happened, with some suggesting this was an act of revenge for the Persian destruction of Greek temples during the Greco-Persian Wars, while others argue this was the result of a drunken accident in which Alexander got super drunk one night, was kind of just dicking around with some of his friends, maybe his boyfriend, who historians say they were just really good friends, but they spent a lot of time together, much like him and Bucephalus. Yeah, I think he might have just, been in a homosexual relationship, which is perfectly fine. It was actually very normal for Greeks to do. Anyway, but that story goes, Alexander was out drinking and essentially lit a spear on fire, tossed it towards the palace, and it caught like some like Greek robes or something, and the whole thing just went ablaze, which is kind of crazy because you'd think you'd have to like do more than that to like burn the whole place to the ground, but I guess not. But again, it could have also just been like an order that Alexander gave, again, in retribution for the Greek temples being destroyed, as Alexander was a very religious man, very believing in his gods. This leads us to the Battle of the Persian Gate in 330 BC. The Persian Gate was a strategic mountain pass located in modern-day Iran, which led to the eastern provinces of the empire. The battle was fought between Alexander's forces and the Persian resistance force led by the satrap Arobarzanes, who sought to block Alexander's advance through the pass. The Persian defenders, taking advantage of the narrow and treacherous terrain of the mountain pass, were able to hold off Alexander's forces for several days. Alexander's army faced significant challenges due to unfavorable terrain and determined resistance put up by the Ariobarzanes forces. Oh, excuse me. Hiccups, man. Oh, God. Anyways, if this sounds familiar to you, it's because it probably should. Because the Persians are essentially doing what the Spartans did at the Battle of Thermopylae. They got a narrow fucking pass, and they had this army coming in, funneling through it, where the troops couldn't they weren't used to the terrain, and the Aerobarzanes forces were super used to it and ready, and they were able to take advantage of the area, narrow in. So numbers didn't really mean anything, and their formations couldn't work out as well, and there wasn't a lot that Alexander could do. However, Alexander also learned from history, and he ultimately employed a very clever strategy to overcome the Persian defenders. He gathered intelligence from local prisoners about a hidden mountain path that bypassed the Persian defenses. Total rip-off of 300, guys. Fucking just ripped off the movie, huh? Under the cover of total darkness, he led a portion of his forces along this path and managed to outflank the Persian position. What comes around goes around, Persians. You do it to the Greeks are going to do it to you. God damn. This maneuver took the Persian defenders by surprise and forced them to retreat, eventually leading to the defeat. This battle again demonstrates Alexander's ability to adapt to the challenging situations and his determination to overcome obstacles during his campaign. This victory allowed his forces to continue their advance into the eastern provinces of the Persian Empire, further consolidating his rule over the conquered territory. This guy could not be fucking stopped at all. I cannot imagine. He was the Michael Jordan of fucking conquering. That's Alexander the Great. I mean, there's a reason why he's called the Great. And he's the greatest there ever was at conquering. Crazy shit, man. But it leads us into our next engagement. And that engagement is the Battle of Ecbatana. Ecbatana was an important city and a summer capital of the Achaemenid Empire located in modern-day Iran. The engagement was a minor one, fought between Alexander's forces and Persian troops still loyal to Darius III for some goddamn reason, despite Darius III being a total bitch, who were attempting to regroup after the fall of Persepolis. After the Battle of the Persian Gate, Alexander continued his eastward pursuit of Darius III. At Ecbatana, he encountered a small force of Persian troops that remained loyal to their king. The ensuing battle was relatively brief, with Alexander's forces quickly overcoming the Persian resistance, and Alexander personally fucking up most of them. Although the Battle of Ecbatana was a minor engagement, it further demonstrated Alexander's commitment to pursuing Darius III and securing his control of the Persian Empire. The guy had a hate boner for Darius III and was like, "You total bitch, I don't respect you, I'm going to kill you myself." The battle and its aftermath are mentioned in the accounts of ancient historians again, that you guys can look up. After this, we go into the Battle of Gabai, and it took place in 330 BC. This skirmish occurred in the region of Sogdiana, in modern-day Uzbekistan and Tashkistan, and was fought against Spitamenes, a Sogdian warlord who had been a former Persian noble. Spitamenes had assembled the force of local tribes and was resisting Alexander's rule. The Battle of Gabai was one of several engagements fought by those forces, by Alexander and Spitamenes. Oh my god. Spitamenes. He's Italian now. Ah, man. I hope I don't have any Persian listeners. If so, I'm sorry. The guy's name is just difficult. Spitamenes. It's just very fun. Spitamenes. Spitamenes. In this skirmish, Alexander's forces, led by one of his generals, encountered Spitamenes and his army, which was composed primarily of cavalry. The battle was marked by swift and mobile tactics, with both sides employing hit-and-run maneuvers. So both of them would just kind of bounce in, clash off, bounce in, clash off for a while. Although the Battle of Gabai was not a decisive victory for either side, it demonstrated the challenges Alexander faced in his efforts to subdue the various tribes and local leaders in the eastern provinces of the Persian Empire. The further east he went, the more issues that you'd find in ideology and just how local things were run. So more tribes would kind of get together to resist it because they're like, "No, we don't want this guy coming in and fucking telling us what to do." And Spitamenes would continue to be a thorn in Alexander's side until his death in 328 BC. So that leads us into the siege of Criopolis, or Chiropolis. Anyways, it was a fortified city located in Sogdiana in modern-day Tajikistan, founded by Cyrus the Great, the city was an important center in the region. The siege was part of Alexander's efforts to subdue the local tribes and consolidate his control over the eastern provinces of the Persian Empire. When Alexander's forces arrived at Acropolis, the city's defenders refused to surrender and prepared to resist the Macedonian army. The city's walls were strong, and its position on a high plateau made it difficult to attack. Alexander, however, was determined to capture the city and devised a plan to breach its defenses. Using a combination of siege engines and scaling ladders, Alexander's forces were able to breach the walls and enter the city. The defenders fought fiercely, but they were ultimately overwhelmed by the superior numbers and tactics of the Macedonian army. Because, again, they've been fighting for fucking years at this point, and they're all honed veterans, and most of them didn't fucking die, because Alexander was great at using them. So they got more and more experience. They were leveled up. They were all, like, level 100, and most of those troops hadn't fought a fucking battle in years. They were, oh man, because most of their other troops had fucking died at that point. So the remaining defenders were either killed or just taken prisoner. This demonstrates Alexander's persistence and ability to adapt his tactics to overcome difficult challenges again. Further consolidated his control over the eastern provinces of the Persian Empire and sent a message to other local tribes and leaders that resistance would be met with force and most likely death. You fuck with Alexander, you fucking die. This leads us to the Battle of Jaxartes. The battle was fought near the Jaxartes River, known today as the Sir Darya, which forms the border between modern-day Kazakhstan and Tajikistan. The engagement was against a coalition of Scythian nomadic tribes that were resisting Alexander's efforts to establish control over the region. Notable stories and sources. The Scythian tribes, known for their skilled horse archers and hit-and-run tactics, posed a challenge to Alexander's forces. In the Battle of Jaxartes, the Scythians initially tried to harass and wear down Alexander's forces with their superior mobility and range attacks. However, Alexander employed a combination of light infantry, archers, and cavalry to counter the Scythian tactics and force them into a pitched battle. Man, this guy, it really seems like sometimes that Alexander just played a lot of Civ, like Civilization, the video game, and just fucking knew what to do when you went against certain forces. God damn. Because, that's exactly what you do, like in the BC era when you're going up against archers or horse archers or like the Scythian Empire, I should say. So this decisive moment in battle came when Alexander led a cavalry charge that broke through the Scythian lines. Once again, Alexander led it himself. God damn, was he cool. I can only imagine what it must have been like to just be in Alexander's presence and his giant stone balls, his giant goddamn balls that he must have had. Constantly going to battle himself. I mean, the guy was probably fucking insane because he like legitimately thought he was invincible. Oh, it's crazy. I cannot imagine the confidence he must have had. This showcased Alexander's ability to adapt his tactics to counter unique challenges posed by the Scythian tribes and their style of warfare. Also demonstrated his determination to secure his rule over the vast territories he had conquered. Again, primary sources for this would be Quintus, Diodorus, and Arrian, who provide insights into the speech that was given by Alexander after this battle. This speech is, let me read for you. My fellow warriors, today we have emerged victorious once again at the Battle of Jaxartes. We have faced a fierce enemy, and we have prevailed through our strength, courage, and determination. But as we celebrate this great victory, I cannot help but think about my beloved horse, Bucephalus. He has been by my side through so many battles, and I owe him a debt of gratitude I can never fully repay. As I look at Bucephalus, I am reminded of the bond that we share, and the trust that we have in each other. It has led me to consider the possibility of getting a foal to train and raise together. I know that raising a foal is a great responsibility, and I am not taking this decision lightly. It will require time, effort, and dedication, but I believe that it will be worth it in the end. I would like to ask you for your advice on raising foals and the dynamics it brings into one's life. I have never undertaken such a task before, and I want to make sure that I'm prepared for the challenges it will bring. But I know that with your guidance and support, I will be able to train and raise a magnificent steed. just as I have with Bucephalus. So let us celebrate our victory today, but let us also look forward to the future and the bonds that we will share with the animals that we train and raise together. We will continue to conquer all who oppose us, and we will do so with the strength, courage, and trust that comes from our bonds with our animal companions. Thank you, and long live our empire. So you're thinking about starting a family, huh? That's great. Good for him. Oh, man. This leads us to the siege of the Sogdian Rock in 327 BC. Oh, by the way, the Spitamenes died in the previous engagement as well. Yeah, he just got fucking beheaded, I think, by one of Alexander's generals. I looked for it all over and it didn't like really go into detail, just that he died. So, like, no interesting story. I probably could have come up with something and been like, yeah, Alexander went in there and, like, he beat the shit out of him. He's just like, yeah, you're gonna surrender to me now, bitch, yeah. Thorn in my side, I'm gonna fuck you up, yeah. But I'm already having fun with the speeches. So let's not fuck around with history that much, okay? Sogdian Rock, also known as the Rock of Eremazes, was a natural fortress located in the Sogdiana region in modern-day Uzbekistan. The fortress was held by a local ruler named Akshartes and a group of Sogdian rebels who were resisting Alexander's control of the region. Sogdian Rock was considered impregnable due to its steep cliffs and difficult approach. The defenders were confident in their position and believed that Alexander's forces would be unable to breach the fortress, despite the hundreds of other times that Alexander did exactly that and found some fucking way to get into the fortress. When Alexander arrived at the foot of the rock, the defenders supposedly taunted him, saying that he would need men with wings to take the fortress. Undeterred, Alexander devised a plan to do exactly that. He put wings on the back of all of his men, and they flew up there and fucking killed them all. And, you know, it was crazy. And that's where we get our modern day depiction of angels. No, I'm just fucking with you. No, Alexander devised a plan to scale the rock using a group of skilled climbers from his army. Under the cover of darkness, these climbers used ropes and iron tent pegs to ascend the sheer cliffs. The following morning, the climbers signaled their success to Alexander, who then demanded the surrender of the fortress. Seeing the impossible feat accomplished by the climbers and fearing the wrath of Alexander, the defenders surrendered without a fight. Because again, Alexander found a way to fucking get into the fortress. Oh man, that's crazy. It's crazy that like you hear this guy coming in, busting down all these other fortresses that many people at the time must have believed like, oh no, this has got to be too difficult to overcome. Like we have too many people. We have like, you know, we have this terrain advantage. We have this terrain advantage. But then, you know, Alexander found a way to get over it. And to think that like, I mean, the hubris to think that they were the exception for some goddamn reason. No, I would have had troops going along all night, every night, staring down archers, anybody trying to climb up, and, you know, routinely, you know, launching archers down the cliffs just to make sure, just in case, you know, light up everything, set up lights, make sure everything was within viewpoint, just to like that's how goddamn nervous Alexander would have made me. Oh, man. But again, it just demonstrates Alexander's determination to overcome and adapt seemingly insurmountable obstacles during his campaign, as well as his ability to devise innovative strategies and achieve his objectives. Again, the guy was the Michael fucking Jordan of conquering. Again, during this battle, there was a minor engagement. After the climbers had, you know, successfully gotten over, they quickly fought some of the defenders, and the defenders realized that they were outmatched, and they chose to surrender. And after all of this, Alexander gave another speech to his men about his horse Bucephalus, yet again talking about Bucephalus. The speech goes as this: "My fellow warriors, I stand with you today with great admiration and pride for my beloved horse, Bucephalus. He is not just any horse, but a majestic beast whose strength and beauty are unmatched. Bucephalus is a sight to behold, with his sleek coat shining like a polished bronze in the sun, His muscles ripple with power, and his mane and tail flow like a river of gold. His eyes, are fierce and intelligent, and he has a presence that commands respect. Oh God, he does. When Bucephalus enters a room or a battlefield, all eyes are on him. But it is not just his physical appearance that sets him apart. Bucephalus has a heart that is as strong as his body, and a spirit that is as fierce as any warrior's. He has carried me through countless battles, and he has never once failed me. He is not just my companion, but my partner, my friend, and my confidant. I cannot help but feel a sense of awe and wonder whenever I am in his presence. Bucephalus is more than just a horse. He is a symbol of our strength and our greatness as a people. So let us honor Bucephalus today and every day for the magnificent creature that he is. Let us continue to fight with the strength and courage that he embodies, and let us never forget the bond that we share with our animal companions. Thank you, and long live our empire. You know, kind of fucking weird that, like, after the battle, he even talked about the battle. He just wanted to, like, brag more about Bucephalus. Again, being one of Alexander's troops must have been so weird, just being, like, constantly outshined by Bucephalus. They must have, like, secretly wanted to kill him or something. Which is crazy. It's just crazy that I loved his horse that much. Anyways, this takes us to the battle of the Hadasepes, the final battle for this engagement that I'm going to be going over. Because after this, he conquered Persia. Everything was done. The battle of the Hadasepes took place in 326 BC during the conquest again and the subsequent beginning of the invasion of India. The battle was fought near the Hadasepes River in modern-day Punjab, Pakistan. Alexander's forces faced the Indian army of King Porus, a powerful regional ruler. This battle is considered one of Alexander's most challenging and strategically significant victories. The Indian army was a formidable force, boasting thousands of infantry, cavalry, chariots, and war elephants. Alexander's forces, though experienced and battle-hardened, and like way leveled up, these guys were all like level 100 plus for this video game that Alexander is playing, essentially, had never faced such an enemy. This was the final boss. Alexander devised a brilliant plan to deceive Porus and cross the river at an unexpected location under the cover of darkness and stormy weather. Once across the river, Alexander's forces surprised Porus, who was forced to fight on unfavorable terrain. And despite the fierce resistance put up by Porus' forces, Alexander's superior tactics and clever maneuver to fucking go under the cover of darkness, just surprise attack his enemy, would lead to Alexander's victory. Porus himself was captured but was treated with respect by Alexander, who allowed him to continue ruling as a satrap under Alexander's authority. Because again, Alexander could respect anybody that like put up a good fight, and Porus, like during the battle and like engagements beforehand, put up a massively good fight and did a good job. So Alexander respected him. He was like, "Hey, listen, I think you'd be a good ruler, and let him rule." This battle demonstrated Alexander's strategic genius, his ability to adapt again. Also marked the easternmost extent of his conquest. As his weary troops refused to march further into India, this would, be the end of the Persian campaign. And unfortunately, it also was the end for another creature that we've been talking about quite a bit. The battle involves the famous warhorse Bucephalus, who was Alexander's trusted steed throughout many of his campaigns. Bucephalus was either killed in battle or died soon after due to injuries and exhaustion. And the fucker who killed him was torn apart by Alexander personally, ripping off him limb from limb. And Alexander, during the funeral for the fallen, gave this eulogy. "My dear comrades, today we gather to mourn the loss of my dear friend and companion, Bucephalus. He was not just a horse, but a symbol of our strength, our courage, and our determination. The Battle of Hadasepes In the Battle of Hydesipus, Bucephalus charged fearlessly into battle, carrying me on his back and inspiring us all, as he did constantly throughout this conquest. He fought with all of his might, and he never once faltered or failed. But in the end, he was struck down by a cowardly blow, and his life was taken from us. I cannot express the depth of my grief and my anger at this injustice. I vow to you all that I will not rest until the family and friends of the man who killed Bucephalus are destroyed for what they have done. Their treachery and cowardice will not go unpunished. But even as I seek vengeance, I cannot help but wish that I had been born a centaur, as my father had planned, so that I could have fought by Bucephalus' side. Perhaps then he would still be with us today and not have been targeted. I curse my human form, for it has kept me from the sight of the one creature that meant more to me than any other. Bucephalus was not just my companion, he was my friend, my confidant, and my soulmate. I cannot help but wonder what might have been if Bucephalus and I had been able to raise a family together. He was more than just a horse. He was a part of me, and his loss leaves a void that can never be filled. But even as we mourn his passing, we must also celebrate his life and the bond that we shared. Let us honor him today, and always let us continue to fight with the strength, courage, and determination that he embodied. Thank you, and long live Macedon. And that speech that implies a lot leads us out of today's lesson. That marks the end of Alexander's Persian conquest. Not the full end. I mean, he still went and conquered more territory towards the east, and Alexander would eventually die in 322 BC. But for the most part, the Achaemenid Empire was done. They were fucked up, completely defeated. Darius III proved himself to be a coward and a little bitch. Pretty sure Alexander cucked him once or twice with his wife. Who knows? Because, Darius didn't give a shit about his kingdom or empire after that. So let's go ahead and hop out of this quarrel.